That is 1 million children every month. That's 250,000 every week. That is a child every time we take a break. This is an awful world we live in, and that's only the kids we know about. Jesus came into this world, and nobody would have known it except the angels sang. He slipped in, even in the stable of all places. There are so many children. I met an elder at the end of one of our programs several years back. There were several artists together, and we spoke about World Vision. And a deacon that had been serving that day, he came up to us crying. And finally, we got his voice. He shared with us. He said, "Thank you for what you're doing." He said, "I am a World Vision child." He said, "There was a time in my life that no one knew I existed except for the flies around me, except for a World Vision representative." Understand, I know ADRA is important. I saw the American Red Cross out here. You partner with a lot of organizations really good. World Vision is one as well. And I'm telling you, these organizations literally stand in the gap between life and death for people. And I am so honored to be a part of that. When I started sponsoring my first child, he was a Muslim little boy over in Indonesia, because that's where my heart was first broken. When I got to travel, I got to meet most of my sponsored kids because I traveled to those places. And once you sponsor a kid, you're the only person who gets to be in contact with them. Nobody else sponsors that child. So when I go to these places, and I met Pedro Odoro, was his name, a Muslim little boy. He was 9 years old when I met him, and he was scared to death of me. He had never seen a Caucasian woman before in his life. And his teacher had gotten on a bus with him. He lived in LaMountain, which was too dangerous for me to go to. So they got on a bus, they rode on a bus for several hours, and they got on a plane and flew to Jakarta, and then he meets me. That was a really rough day on this little boy. But the thing is, Pedro and I had been writing back and forth to each other. And I knew what Pedro's favorite animal in the whole world was a dolphin. So we arranged to go to where he could pet a dolphin. So we watched their little show, and then I sat on the front little bench or whatever, and he got to go and reach in the water and pet dolphins and give them commands and stuff. When that was over, I was sitting on the bench. He comes over and he sits beside me, the closest we had been together the whole time. And he was crying. And he reached over and he patted my hand. And then he slid a little closer and patted my hand. He was with me for a few days, and in that time, he taught me, in Bahasa Indonesian, he taught me, Jesus loves me, Jesus loves little children. He's a grown man now, who operates his own farm, he has a family of his own. And we can't change the lives of 6 million people all at once, but we can change one. And that's why I started doing this, because I wanted to change the world. And I want you to know, if you go to the World Health Organization and look at their stats, those numbers I gave you this morning, 28 years later, those stats are almost half now. But again, it's a big number, and it's only the kids we know about. We still can make a difference. I know this world, we know prophecy, we understand what's going to happen here, but I know that Christ has us here for the very purpose to care for one another. Until he returns to fix it all and put it all right. That is the one thing that he said. There's only one true religion, to care for the widows and the orphans. And that strange, weird parable, you remember the one about the saints at the pearly gates? We know salvation only comes from Christ, period. There's nothing we can do to walk through the gates of heaven except by him. So why did he tell that parable? It was before he left, the disciples were asking, what is the important things? What are the most important things we need to remember from your time here on earth? And he told them through that parable, this is how much I want you to take care of each other, how important it is that we care for each other. Because if you come to the gates and you say, let us in, you've been such good saints, and I say, I don't even know you. You didn't feed me, you didn't clothe me, you did not care for me. That's why that parable was there. To remind us of how important it is that we care for each other. So if you've ever thought about doing this before, you didn't know if it was an organization you could trust or something, talk to me back there. Look through these folders, and this is your opportunity today. your chance to really change a child's life. And I'll tell you, in the end, it will change yours. Because here I am. I never thought I would have a child. And when my son was born, I realized the most important task I'll ever do is to raise him to be a son of God. And that's not always easy in this world, you know? So there's a lot of prayer. And he's a good boy, but he's a human boy. You understand? No, but I don't want to disparage him because he is a good kid, but there's so much to learn, so much character growth that needs to happen. And I'll tell you, World Vision, I had no clue what my involvement with World Vision would do for my child. From the earliest time he can remember, he thought my job was to feed hungry children. Yeah? And then he thought it was his job to do that. And just this last year, we happened to be in the Philippines where we had one sponsored child. We got to meet this young man. They're only 5 years apart in age. By the end of that day, my son had a greater understanding of how the rest of the world can live and what they need. He also had a new brother. Those boys were weeping when we pulled them apart at the end of the day and said, "You're my brother forever," because they didn't know when they'd ever see each other again, but they loved each other instantly. And for me, that's worth everything with World Vision, what it has given me and my family and my son. Okay, I'm sorry. You get me talking about my son, I could go on for a month, you know. Let me just tell you a few really important things to notice. These folders back there on that table, if you'll look carefully, you'll see every single one is different. I'm the only person in the world who has this little girl from the Dominican Republic, okay? So I want you to go back there, dig through and find the country you care about, the birth date you care about, or the one that has ears like your husband, I don't know, whatever it is, find a child that you would like to have a relationship with and sponsor. You can read a little bit about them inside, but before you leave with this folder, do not leave with this folder until you fill out this form inside. That's what I need, all right? And Jenny and Dorinda, you're going to help me out there. There's going to be several of us here, and I'll be there too.